Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Outer coat of especially sheep and yaks. Shear the wool from. Tanned skin of a sheep with the fleece left on, used for clothing. Rip off. Ask an unreasonable price. A soft bulky fabric with deep pile, used chiefly for clothing. The wool of a sheep or similar animal. A fabric made from the hair of sheep. Outer coat of especially sheep and yaks. Fiber sheared from animals, such as sheep, and twisted into yarn for weaving. Shear the wool from. Shear sheep. A large edge tool that cuts sheet metal by passing a blade through it. Become deformed by forces tending to produce a shearing strain. Cut or cut through with shears. Shear the wool off the lamb. Cut with shears. Shear hedges. Physics. A deformation of an object in which parallel planes remain parallel but are shifted in a direction parallel to themselves. The shear changed the quadrilateral into a parallelogram. A document certifying the successful completion of a course of study. Skin of a sheep or goat prepared for riding on. Tanned skin of a sheep with the fleece left on, used for clothing. Rip off. Ask an unreasonable price. Raise the price of something after agreeing on a lower price. Anything that serves as an enticement. Make off with belongings of others. Approach with an offer of sexual favors. Take by theft. A golf shot that curves to the left for a right-handed golfer. He took lessons to cure his hooking. A sharp curve or crook, a shape resembling a hook. To cause, someone or oneself, to become dependent on something, especially a narcotic drug. A mechanical device that is curved or bent to suspend or hold or pull something. Make a piece of needlework by interlocking and looping thread with a hooked needle. Rip off. Ask an unreasonable price. Entice and trap. A basketball shot made over the head with the hand that is farther from the basket. A catch for locking a door. A curved or bent implement for suspending or pulling something. A short swinging punch delivered from the side with the elbow bent. Catch with a hook. Hook a fish. Fasten with a hook. Hit a ball and put a spin on it so that it travels to the left. Hit with a hook. His opponent hooked him badly. Secure with the foot. Hook the ball. Place too much a load on. Rip off. Ask an unreasonable price. A price that is too high. Strip of feathers. Pluck the capon. Pull lightly but sharply with a plucking motion. He plucked the strings of his mandolin. Look for and gather. Sell something to or obtain something from by energetic and especially underhanded activity. The trait of showing courage and determination in spite of possible loss or injury. Pull or pull out sharply. Pluck the flowers off the bush. Rip off. Ask an unreasonable price. The act of pulling and releasing a taut cord. Clean with one's bill. Dress or groom with elaborate care. The light horny waterproof structure forming the external covering of birds. Be proud of. Rip off. Ask an unreasonable price. A feather or cluster of feathers worn as an ornament. Anything that resembles a feather in shape or lightness. A plume of smoke. Deck with a plume. A plumed helmet. Form a plume. Rip off. Ask an unreasonable price. Take something away by force or without the consent of the owner. The burglars robbed him of all his money. Make drunk, with alcoholic drinks. Leave as a guarantee in return for money. Washing something by allowing it to soak. Become drunk or drink excessively. Cover with liquid. Pour liquid onto. The process of becoming softened and saturated as a consequence of being immersed in water, or other liquid. A good soak put life back in the wagon. Fill, soak, or imbue totally. Soak the bandage with disinfectant. Rip off. Ask an unreasonable price. Beat severely. Heat a metal prior to working it. Submerge in a liquid. I soaked in the hot tub for an hour. Place too much a load on. Rip off. Ask an unreasonable price. An additional charge, as for items previously omitted or as a penalty for failure to exercise common caution or common skill. Charge an extra fee, as for a special service. Fill to an excessive degree. The air was surcharged with tension. Fill to capacity with people. The air raids had surcharged the emergency wards. Print a new denomination on a stamp or a banknote. Show an omission in an account, for which credit ought to have been given. Growth of hair or wool or fur covering the body of an animal. Put a coat on. Cover the surface of. Furnish with a surface. Coat the cake with chocolate. A thin layer covering something. A second coat of paint. Form a coat over. Dirt had coated her face. Growth of hair or wool or fur covering the body of an animal. An outer garment that has sleeves and covers the body from shoulder down, worn outdoors. Cover or provide with a coat. Cut down on. Make a reduction in. Cultivate, tend, and cut back the growth of. Thin and fit. A body kept trim by exercise. Cutting down to the desired size or shape. Neat and smart in appearance. A trim beard. Decorate, food, as with parsley or other ornamental foods. Remove the edges from and cut down to the desired size. Trim the photograph. Of places, characterized by order and neatness, free from disorder. A trim little sailboat. Severely simple in line or design. A decoration or adornment on a garment. The trimming on a hat. A state of arrangement or appearance. In good trim. Cut closely. Trim my beard. Adjust sails on a ship so that the wind is optimally used. Attitude of an aircraft in flight when allowed to take its own orientation. Balance in flight by regulating the control surfaces. Trim an airplane. Be in equilibrium during a flight. The airplane trimmed. Decorate, as with ornaments. Trim the Christmas tree. Cut closely. Cut the price of. The act of removing hair with a razor. Cut or remove with or as if with a plane. The machine shaved off fine layers from the piece of wood. Make shavings of or reduce to shavings. Shave the radish. Remove body hair with a razor. Touch the surface of lightly. His back shaved the counter in passing. An animal skin made smooth and flexible by removing the hair and then tanning. Whip with a leather strap. Deprive somebody of something by deceit. Remove by pulling or ripping violently and forcefully. Take without the owner's consent. Weedy annual, native to Europe but widely distributed as a weed, especially in wheat. Engage in deceitful behavior. Practice trickery or fraud. Weedy annual grass often occurs in grain fields and other cultivated land. Seeds sometimes considered poisonous. Deprive somebody of something by deceit. We were cheated by their clever-sounding scheme. Defeat someone through trickery or deceit. Someone who leads you to believe something that is not true. Be sexually unfaithful to one's partner in marriage. She cheats on her husband. The act of swindling by some fraudulent scheme. A deception for profit to yourself. Engage in deceitful behavior. Practice trickery or fraud. Who's chiseling on the side? Deprive somebody of something by deceit. They chiseled me out of my money. An edge tool with a flat steel blade with a cutting edge. Carve with a chisel. Chisel the marble. Artifact made by weaving or felting or knitting or crocheting natural or synthetic fibers. The fabric in the curtains was light and semi-transparent. The underlying structure. It is part of the fabric of society. Artifact made by weaving or felting or knitting or crocheting natural or synthetic fibers. Woven cloth originated in Mesopotamia around 5000 BC. Artifact made by weaving or felting or knitting or crocheting natural or synthetic fibers. Of or relating to fabrics or fabric making. Textile research. Artifact made by weaving or felting or knitting or crocheting natural or synthetic fibers. She measured off enough material for a dress. Having substance or capable of being treated as fact, not imaginary. Having material or physical form or substance. The tangible substance that goes into the makeup of a physical object. Coal is a hard black material. A person judged suitable for admission or employment. He was university material. Concerned with or affecting physical as distinct from intellectual or psychological well-being. Material needs. Concerned with worldly rather than spiritual interests. Material possessions. derived from or composed of matter. The material universe. Directly relevant to a matter, especially a law case. His support made a material difference. Information, data or ideas or observations, that can be used or reworked into a finished form. The archives provided rich material for a definitive biography. Things needed for doing or making something. Writing materials. In Greek mythology, a fleece of gold owned by the king of Colchis and guarded in a sacred grove by a dragon, recovered by Jason and the Argonauts. Make a groove in. Force with the thumb. Gouge out his eyes. Obtain by coercion or intimidation. An impression in a surface, as made by a blow. An edge tool with a blade like a trough for cutting channels or grooves. The act of gouging. An instrument of torture that stretches or disjoints or mutilates victims. Torment emotionally or mentally. A support for displaying various articles. The newspapers were arranged on a rack. Go at a rack. A rapid gait of a horse in which each foot strikes the ground separately. The destruction or collapse of something. Rack and ruin. Obtain by coercion or intimidation. Run before a gale. A form of torture in which pain is inflicted by stretching the body. Draw off from the lees. Rack wine. Fly in high wind. Framework for holding objects. Put on a rack and pinion. Rack a camera. Rib section of a forequarter of veal or pork or especially lamb or mutton. Seize together, as of parallel ropes of a tackle in order to prevent running through the block. Stretch to the limits. Rack one's brains. Torture on the rack. Work on a rack. Rack leather. To compress with violence, out of natural shape or condition. Squeeze a lemon. An aggressive attempt to compel acquiescence by the concentration or manipulation of power. To cause to do through pressure or necessity, by physical, moral or intellectual means. He squeezed her for information. A twisting squeeze. A state in which there is a short supply of cash to lend to businesses and consumers and interest rates are high. A tight or amorous embrace. Squeeze like a wedge into a tight space. I squeezed myself into the corner. Squeeze or press together. The act of gripping and pressing firmly. He gave her cheek a playful squeeze. Hold someone tightly in your arms, usually with fondness. Obtain by coercion or intimidation. They squeezed money from the owner of the business by threatening him. Press or force. Squeeze tightly between the fingers. She squeezed the bottle. A situation in which increased costs cannot be passed on to the customer. Increased expenses put a squeeze on profits. Press firmly. He squeezed my hand. Slang. A person's girlfriend or boyfriend. She was his main squeeze. The act of forcing yourself, or being forced, into or through a restricted space. Getting through that small opening was a tight squeeze. Twist and press out of shape. A twisting squeeze. Gave the wet cloth a ring. Obtain by coercion or intimidation. Twist and compress, as if in pain or anguish. Twist, squeeze, or compress in order to extract liquid. Wring the towels. Get or cause to become in a difficult or laborious manner. Obtain by coercion or intimidation. They extorted money from the executive by threatening to reveal his past to the company boss. Obtain through intimidation.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.